И теперь все слышно тоже? Супер. Пока, может, еще не включили. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Soon we're going to start our streamlining. I would like to remind you that today we are working both online and offline. Therefore, please do pay attention to that, because we have to adhere to the rules which refer to online streaming. I think that we can get started, our online streaming, and broadcast today's event. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Nadia Afanasieva. I'm a representative of Ukrainian Institute of International Politics, and today we have gathered here to launch the first event planned on the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Strategy for the Danube Region. On the 27th of October in Bratislava, the 10th annual Forum Ukraine accepted this presidency from the Slovak Republic, and Ukraine is the first non-EU member country which assumes this presidency. And for us, it's much more responsible than for the EU countries that previously chaired the strategy. Now, for the welcoming remarks, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Olga Stefanishina, the Vice Minister of Ukraine on Euro-Atlantic integration of Ukraine. So, Ms. Olga, the floor is yours. Hello, everyone, dear colleagues. It's a great pleasure. I'm really delighted to be here because of this opportunity for Ukraine to preside at the European strategy for the Danube region. The title itself is really interesting because this document is a strategy, it's a vision which refers to the European Union. And in fact, over the last 2 years, at least within this framework, the European Union has been confirming that there are challenges, there are programs and policies that cannot be implemented, in fact, without the strategic partnerships. That is to say, countries that play a dominant role in the development, at least, or in particular, in the Danube region. Therefore, Ukraine has expressed its leadership. Let's put it this way, and over a year ago, it set itself a task which seemingly was impossible, not only to become a member of the EU strategy for the Danube region, but also to chair it for a year. It's a wonderful break that Ukraine has taken advantage of. We have made a statement about ourselves, and in fact the dialogue that we have been building throughout the previous year with our Austrian counterparts, the Slovak counterparts, with the countries which are the major participants of the Danube strategy, resulted in the fact that unanimously this Ukrainian proposal for chairing the European Union strategy for the Danube region was supported. This is a great credit of trust given to Ukraine, and at this event it's even more pleasurable for me to talk about the fact that we have prepared for this presidency in a really powerful way. We already have an action plan approved by the government of Ukraine, and it stipulates for the forum and discussions and roundtable talks in multiple regions of Ukraine, ranging from Chernivtsi to Odesa regions of Ukraine. Also within the framework of this presidency, we have already made a statement about the possibility for other regions of Ukraine, for example, Lviv region, will also be participating in it. We also have allocated budgeting from the state budget of Ukraine for us not to be restricted in any way financially when taking advantage of this political opportunity. I also believe that this opportunity that Ukraine has gained, it's not only a chance for us to implement joint projects and participate in shaping policies and making agendas, because within this presidency, Ukraine claims its position about commonly important issues, irrespective of the size of the country. We talk about environmental protection, green transformation, economic development, also combating COVID effects. Besides, we do acknowledge that this presidency lasts throughout 1 year, and in 1 year to ensuring such radical or drastic transformations is really demanding. So for us it's important, highly important, during our presidency to be coordinating our actions both with the previously presiding country and to make sure that the plan that we have prepared for this year's agenda will also be supported by the next country. Perhaps it will be Slovenia or any other country, and we are investing a lot of efforts in communications in order to ensure succession and consistency in the tasks that we set for ourselves. In fact, if you pay attention to the latest strategic documents pertinent to security, environmental and external policies, one may notice that cross-border cooperation has been identified as one of the top priority of the European integration, because the European integration starts with secure borders and comfortable near-border infrastructure. Also, the elimination of borders in the way of freight and cargo transshipments. And it's also necessary for the countries to unite around these common challenges. We have a lot of positive joint experience, but also moving ahead, we have already declared for ourselves the next ambitious goal, which is for Ukraine to become a participant of the European strategy for the Baltic region. And we are so grateful that at the level of DG Regio, the European Union is already supporting this Ukrainian initiative at the results of NATO summit, which recently took part on October 12th. We gained the support, which means that our progress and our uniting with the European Union is becoming more of a physical progress and process. And I would like to remind you that it's only possible because of the reforms that we are running in Ukraine, because of the projects being implemented by the European Union in the territory of Ukraine, by the implementation of the state reforms such as decentralization, legislation which pertains to Ukrainian EU association. All of this allows us to be on the same page with our partners. And today I'm grateful to our partners from the regions and ministries, the team of the Office of the Vice Minister, because perhaps it's one of the first opportunities for Ukraine to speak about its presidency. And at the same time, along with the European nations, we are at the helm of forming the new agenda. So that speaks in favor of Ukraine's sovereignty. And as a vice president on European integration, it's a matter of separate pride. It's a badge of honor for me. I'm encouraging all of you to get involved in this discussion and in the implementation of the action plan on the Ukrainian presidency. And I'm looking forward to the local governments to do that. And I can see one of the governments of the Ukrainian regions being with us here today. But I will be happy that in the next meetings we will have all of the mayors, at least from Odesa regions and some other regions, because they have a wonderful, powerful potential to implement, and they will use this potential to the fullest. Thank you, Ms. Olga. Thank you very much indeed, because it's true that the European integration and the Ukrainian presidency of the European Union strategy for the Danube region speaks in favor of the integration of Ukraine into the European Union. And in the association agreement, there is a small article which speaks about the river Danube. And it speaks about the approximation and collaboration within the basin of the Danube River. Now I would like to give the floor to Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Ambassador of Austria to Ukraine, Mr. Hernot Fandler. Ms. Olga has already mentioned that Austria has to play a major role in the cooperation within the framework of the European Union strategy, and Austria is the country which has been supportive of our collaboration within the framework of the 9th priority area, which is the investment in people and skills, within the framework of which several ministries of Ukraine and Austria are jointly coordinating this priority of the Danube strategy. Mr. Hernot, the floor is yours.
Translation.
Yeah. Can you hear me? So again,
please closer.
Can I speak?
Closer.
Closer.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So, first of all, again, apologies for being a bit late. And thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. And of course, it is a big honor and it's a wonderful occasion today, which is, so to say, a quite milestone because it's the first time that a non-EU country is taking over the presidency of the EU strategy for the Danube region. So yeah, it's really something special, and that I think really it's something that needs to be pointed out. I would also like to use this opportunity to congratulate Slovakia for a successful presidency, and actually we're very grateful that the cooperation with the non-EU countries was a priority already for the Slovakian chairmanship. Austria is a huge supporter of closest possible cooperation with the ENP countries, specifically Ukraine. And the Eastern Partnership is the strategic interest of European Union, I think that goes without saying, in order to shape and develop an area of common values. The former Foreign Minister and now Chancellor Schallenberg underlined in regard to the 10th anniversary of the EU strategy for the Danube region, I quote, "The Danube area is of key importance for Austria. The further positive development of this area from the Black Forest to the Black Sea is of central importance for the whole of Europe. The EUSDR is thereby an important, also sometimes underestimated platform of cooperation between EU and ENP countries. A platform where EU members reach out and build bridges between EU and its neighbors in Eastern Europe. 115 million people with one goal, diversity in prosperity, which is the EUSDR slogan. EUSDR contributes to everybody."
Пане Гермат, можете, can you please speak in microphone?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
In EUSDR, all countries participating are on equal footing, also in regard to the presidency. The Ukrainian Presidency starting in November is the first time that the EUSDR Presidency is taken over by a non-EU member state, as you know, of course. And of course, we also want to confirm our full support from Austria for this presidency. I think that should be enough for some first remarks. Thank you again for listening to me. Sorry for the micro problem, and looking forward to the further discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Дякую, пане посол. Ми вимушені відпустити, на жаль, пані.
Unfortunately, we have to let go of Olga Stefanishina because right now she will be present in the Council on Strategy and Security of Ukraine, and we are very happy that we have heard these welcoming remarks from you, but we hope that at the next meeting we will be able to talk about all of the priorities which are part of the Danube strategy in greater detail. Thank you very much indeed. Fortunately, this presidency will last throughout 1 year, and all of this work of the government team will definitely enjoy my boundless support and commitment. But I would also like to stress that the support of the Austrian government has been invaluable because the political support of the ambassador and the whole governmental team, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Austria has been really important, significant. We have held this inspiration and this assistance throughout all of this period because the spirit of preparation has been really demanding. And if we say about some things that do unite us, seemingly Ukraine with Austria do not have these historic or friendly relations because we don't have any common borders. But what do we have? What we do have is the common priority for the development of the Danube region, of the near Danube region, and in fact these are the things that unite countries and shape the consensus concerning Euro-Atlantic aspirations. So I do want to stress your attention and say that the support of Austria has been invaluable for us. Thank you, dear colleagues. I wish all of you constructive discussion, and I will get back at the next discussion. Thank you, Ms. Olga. And at this point, I would also like to reiterate that in the Danube strategy, there are 14 countries united within its scope. And quite a few countries are supportive of us as Ukraine. We are getting a lot of greetings, support in words, a lot of actions, not only in words, in order to support our presidency. We get to hear it from all of the national coordinators of all of the member countries. What can we do from our experience, from the experience of our presidency, because a lot of the countries have already chaired the strategy since 2015. Therefore, now what we are talking about is activating international cooperation with a variety of countries, including non-EU members. But what matters for us is the support rendered by Hans Seidel, or the representation of Hans Seidel Fund in Ukraine, Moldova and Romania, which since 2016 has been in very active support of the projects which are to do with the Danube region projects. These have been thematical projects and a lot of events and measures pertinent to the COVID, also waste treatment. We had a lot of collaboration with universities concerning awareness campaigns disseminated across regions which are united all around the strategy. It's Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernivtsi, Odesa regions, and Mr. Veniamin Boba, who is the regional representative for this fund in the republics of Moldova and Ukraine. Please, you're welcome to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear Deputy Prime Minister Olha Stefanishina, dear Ambassador Fandler, dear Deputy Minister Igor Korchovi, National Coordinator for the Danube Strategy, dear Nadia Afanasieva, Director of the Ukrainian Institute for International Politics, dear Excellencies, Ambassadors, friends, good afternoon. I appreciate very much the opportunity to address you today, and appreciate very much the honor and the privilege as Hans Seidel Foundation, together with our close partner, the Ukrainian Institute of International Politics, to be part of this important initiative. And I would like to congratulate the governments of Austria and Slovakia on the great work within the framework of this initiative. The Ukrainian presidency being the first non-EU member is an outstanding achievement and reflects the strong position of Ukraine within the EU Danube strategy, as do the wisely chosen and so pertinent and key priority topics, namely sustainable development and human capital and labor markets. The EU Danube strategy moved the focus of attention towards the heart of Europe, creating after the Baltic region a second macro region within Europe. Ukraine and Germany do have a lot in common with respect to this project, to this initiative. Ukraine and Germany both are the only countries being represented by its Danube regions, not as the country as a whole. This reflects the important role of the regions within the two countries. And if you always refer to the Europe of regions, this is a shiny example for this. In the case of Germany, the two southern Länder of Baden-Württemberg and the Free State of Bayern, Bavaria, participate in the strategy. As Hans Seidel Foundation, with strong ties to Bavaria and the government of Bavaria, and with our headquarters being in Munich, the capital of Bavaria, and not in Berlin, this connects us even stronger to this project, to this important and wonderful project that brings Europe together. The Bavarian side is working together with Croatia on priority area 6, biodiversity, landscapes, and air and soil quality. And well, if someone might describe Ukraine and Germany, geographically speaking, looking on a map, as the periphery of this project, I think it's more adequate. The more adequate description or image is more of a, and I have it here, more of a clamp binding together the parts. In this respect, we are looking very much forward to working together during this year and afterwards in the implementation of this presidency, and to all institutions and persons involved in the Ukrainian EU Danube strategy. We wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Дуже дякую, пане Бобе.
Thank you so much. For us, Hans Seidel Foundation support is very important in Ukraine, which has been consistently supporting the Danube strategy. We view here the secret of your interest, because the Danube River actually unites us. It starts in Germany, and along with Romania, we share the delta of the Danube. And the entire Danube transition is what unites us. So I would like to go to the next session. I would like to let you go. Colleagues, please join the participants in the conference room, and I would like to invite for the next panel discussion Mr. Ihor Korkhovy, who is EUSDR National Coordinator in Ukraine, Deputy Minister for Communities and Territories Development of Ukraine on European integration. Also Mr. Norman Popens, who's a Deputy Director General, DG Regio, European Commission. Online will be joined by Mr. Robert Lichtner, who's a Danube Strategy Point Coordinator. Also will be joined online by Mikhail Blashko, who is a EUSDR National Coordinator in the Slovak Republic. Who represents the country who is handing over the presidency to Ukraine. I kindly ask you to change the nameplates. We also are waiting for Ms. Emin Japarova. Actually, lots of activities are taking place. We have a lot of changes in the agenda. Let me remind you, you can watch us on our Facebook page, Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union Strategy for the Danube Region. You can also watch us on YouTube, the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union Strategy for the Danube. There's a separate page of the Ministry of Regional Development, where you can also watch us and see this news. There's a Ukrainian Institute of International Policy page, who since 2016 has been following us. Also, we have a Twitter presidency from in the English language. You can also check this page throughout the year. We have a lot of events taking place, which we cover on these pages. For now, I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Ihor Korkhovy, who is a national coordinator in Ukraine for EUSDR, Deputy Minister for Communities and Territories Development of Ukraine on European integration. Please. Thank you, Nadia. I think we'll kick off from the video. I kindly ask you to switch on the presentation video on presidency. For now, I'd like to start by thanking. And my first thanks goes to all the 14 countries, participants of the strategy. Without that support, the presidency would be impossible. My second thanks goes to Austria. And the Danube strategic contact point, and Mr. Robert Lichtner for the job he has done and the assistance he has provided to our team in drafting the program and the action plan. I'd like to also thank our team and Vice Premier and Mr. Alexei Chernyshev, who is Minister of Development of Communities and Territories, for his active support to the presidency. And I'd like to thank our team, who's been doing all that and who has made it possible. Friends, the video, please.
We are all united by Europe. Common values, challenges and goals, democratic principles, and the focus on environmental protection are only a small part of what already bonds Ukraine with countries of the European Union, inextricably and forever. Ukraine, as part of the European family, has a lot to be proud of. Our unique culture, history, and traditions significantly enrich the whole region. The Danube is a magnificent river that is a true symbol of solidarity and well-being, as it unites 14 countries. The EU strategy for the Danube region, which Ukraine is a party to, aims to strengthen international cooperation, overcome the disparities in socio-economic development of the region, and improve the quality of life of its residents. Ukraine has become the first non-EU country to chair the EU strategy for the Danube region in 2022. The Ukrainian EUSDR Presidency is an important stage for the country's foreign policy, as well as a significant step to its European integration, improvement of its image, and its positioning in the region. As the first priority for the presidency, Ukraine identifies sustainable development of the Danube region through decarbonization and economic transformation. Today, the effects of climate change have a significant impact on the life of the region. At the same time, one of the biggest sources of environmental pollution and greenhouse gas emissions is the transportation sector. Therefore, during Ukraine's presidency, special attention will be paid to the development of sustainable and reasonable mobility in the Danube region by increasing the use of environmentally friendly means of transport, developing the 10T network, and spreading multimodal and intermodal freight transportation. As the second priority for the presidency, Ukraine identifies the development of human capital and labor markets. The issues of reducing the disparity in the development of labor markets and increasing the level of employment are of current interest. It became especially evident due to the crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Ukraine will focus on providing the proper quality of education and its adaptation to modern needs, implementing the inclusion along with the integration of vulnerable groups and people with disabilities into the labor market, increasing the employment level, and supporting social innovations. During the Ukrainian EUSDR presidency, further digitalization of the region and implementation of innovations will occur as a part of overcoming the consequences of the crisis. The Ukrainian EUSDR presidency means restoration, development, and unity of the Danube region. Ukraine will contribute to the productive cooperation among all the participating countries and meet the challenges of the present rapidly and effectively.
I would kindly ask you to put the presentation on the screen. For the moment, let me say a few words and thank our Slovakian colleagues. It is in their presidency program, one of the political priorities was the support of non-EU countries and the expansion of their role in the EUSDR. Thanks to their support, we managed to continue the work which was conducted by the Slovakian side, the political priorities, the thematic priorities, which were initiated by the Slovakian side, and in which we participated, and in which we plan to participate. So, friends, the key message is that we are the first country, a non-EU member, and are exercising the presidency in EUSDR. Key aspects of the presidency include the focus on two blocks. One is a political one. In this political section, we have chosen several priorities that I'm going to introduce you to. The second section is the so-called thematic activities, which are synchronized with the EU agenda and with the key challenges which are common for all the 14 EUSDR member countries. In terms of thematic priorities, or topical priorities, we have scheduled the work in two directions. First is decarbonization and transformation of the economy. The second direction is the development of the human capital and labor markets. With regards to sustainable development of the Danube region and decarbonization and transformation of the economy, we will be focused on the next activities, the so-called green course, or the green direction, which is on the EU agenda, the development of hydrogen economy, digitization, decarbonization. And here we have something to share with the Danube strategy member countries. A few months ago, the representatives of the Ministry of Digital Transformation made a presentation on the development of digitization in the country, and that caused a lot of ado among the member countries. So our contribution will be significant, the Ukrainian contribution. Also, the introduction of the circular economy, the reduction of the carbon trace. As a result of our event, by the way, we will measure the amount of CO2 which was emitted in the air. GIZ is going to work on the methodology. We are grateful to them for that. And this report is going to be presented and provided to everybody. So just to make sure that this event was hosted with carbon-free trace. Also, in terms of the green transport, the development of multimodal and intermodal transportation, and the so-called TNT transportation. The development of human capital. As we prepared this topic, we, jointly with the European Commission and the national coordinators of other nations, have come up with the major idea, which is the post-COVID revival, the adaptation of the quality of training and education to the post-COVID time, the improvement of digital literacy, foreign languages, lifelong learning, increase of improvement of employment. Is not just the signal to the Danube region, but for the entire macro region, and it's also about the support of innovations. With regards to the so-called green transformation, this isn't an easy task. It's not just a trend. It's on the agenda. So it is pressing for a number of participating states and is going to be going to touch all the events with regards to policy papers and so on. Political priorities entail more intrigue because we are not an EU member country. So some of the regulatory procedures, we're not covered by some of the regulatory procedures. You know that in the European Union, they are improving the system of administrative planning, efficient management of financial resources, and the implementation of the so-called goals. So one of the key directions as part of our political priorities of our presidency is the continuation of the so-called embedding in the strategic planning and programming. The process of embedding is the process of efficient programming, which entails avoiding duplication of using funds, so that the funds being allocated for projects be used in the best way, with the best accountability. Fortunately, we are not EU members yet, but this process of embedding is also useful for us. And we, as a country who is going to exercise the presidency, should also join in this process. So this is one of the directions to improve our institutional capacity at all levels. The second political direction is the increase of institutional capacity of the strategy proper, the reinforcement and the engagement of all stakeholders at all levels, and of monitoring and assessment. And civil society. I don't think anyone would object to the fact that we are an active participant of the so-called youth engagement sector. The representatives of our ministry are part of the Youth Council. This is going to continue. We plan to hold in 2022 of a educational hackathon with the universities and the academia of the Danube strategy participating states. And as a result, we will have a cherry on the pie for all the participants.
And of course, we do have an action plan, just as Olga has mentioned that. The government has done its most, which was possible to have been done in the preparation. We have confirmed the plan, the action plan, the funding from the state budget of Ukraine. And our action plan is a list of events which include meetings of the national coordinators, meetings of priority areas, the so-called PACs, and of course working groups, meetings, seminars, exhibitions. And the crown of it all, the crown of our presidency, will be the 11th Annual EU Strategy Forum for the Danube Region, which will be held under the slogan Recovery, Development and Unity. I believe that we will tackle this task both with your help and the help from our international partners. Next slide, please. One more. This is it. The last slide had the text, Recovery, Development and Unity. This is all from me. Thank you very much indeed. To wrap up my presentation, once again, I would like to thank Hans Seidel Stiftung and Mr. Bober personally for the support that you keep extending to us as an executive body. Also, the Institute of International Policy, Politics, and Mr. Fundler, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Austria. Of course, I would like to thank our regional partners. It's very good that you have been so actively involved in this preliminary plan, in the development and drafting this plan. And now we are anticipating your active participation, that now that we are beginning to implement everything that we have planned for, especially during the year 2022. And I hope that within your budgets you will be able to find the necessary funding. And you do have all of the plans concerning how you are planning to implement, to put all of these plans into real life. Thank you, Mr. Igor, because our action plan was approved in the month of September. It's only the foundational basis. It hasn't been completed yet, and we can still top it up. Therefore, we are still waiting for information from both the representatives of the 4 above-mentioned regions of Ukraine and the representatives of the ministries concerned. Well, we are not restricted, and there are no barriers for further perfections. You can plan within the frameworks of your regional strategies and those strategic tasks on the Danube region. You can plan a whole range of different events and activities. We are always in touch 24/7. Therefore, if you have any methodological organizational support, you're welcome to approach us. Our team is always here, so you can always go to us directly. Thank you, Mr. Igor. And I think that now, at this point, this hybrid format of events being held these days, when there are very few people, has its own percolations. We unfortunately beginning to forget that it's necessary to give a round of applause after every presentation, so sorry for that. Again, we're getting back to our hybrid format, and now we have Mr. Robert Lichner in touch with us, who is Danube Strategy Point Coordinator. And this coordination point is a communication point which gathers information from all of the 14 countries covered by the strategy for the Danube region. They offer communicational support, especially to non-EU member states, which are also covered by the EUSDR. And of course, a great support is extended by this focal point for the presidency of Ukraine. Therefore, let us give the floor to Robert Lichner, and if it's possible, let us see him on the screen. We would like to hear, in the first place, good afternoon, Mr. Robert. We are very happy to see you here today. So you're welcome to say a few words. How are you helping the Ukrainian presidency? What are the priorities that you have now for the European Union strategy of the Danube region and concerning the points that you are taking care of? You're welcome. Unfortunately, we cannot hear you. Your microphone is probably muted. You must be muted. Unmute your microphone, please.
Sound from you. We are trying to fix it. Please check if everything is okay with your sound. Okay. So, can we fix it? У нас є звук? Є звук? Є звук?
We still haven't got the sound.
We can hear you, please. Go on. Go on.
Does it work now?
Yes.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And your colleagues, thank you for inviting me to the event. I truly regret for not being able to be with you today in Kiev, as we are all in the fourth pandemic wave in Europe, both in Ukraine and in Austria and also many other countries. 2021, the EU strategy for the Danube region celebrates 2 milestones. The first one being the 10th anniversary of the implementation of the Danube strategy, and the second one, the presidency being taken over by the first non-EU country, by Ukraine. And I think this is not too many times to repeat. And at this stage, I would like to congratulate Ukraine for taking this step. And especially let me thank to the Vice Minister, Ihor Korchovi, for his commitment, support, and enthusiasm. By its design, the EUSDR as a so-called macro-regional strategy represents an integrated framework to address common challenges faced by the Danube geographical area relating to EU and non-EU member states, which jointly benefit from strengthened territorial cooperation by contributing to the achievement of economic, social, and territorial cohesion. To put this maybe difficult definition in plain words, the mission of the strategy is to join forces in fields where the states and regions can achieve better results when tackling challenges together than on their own. In the globalized world, also the challenges are global and certainly do not stop on national borders. Just to mention the so-called horizontal challenges like the COVID pandemic, the climate change, the European Green Deal, the digital transformation of our economies and societies. The global challenges impact all of us, and therefore they're only to be managed with joint forces. Above that, the EUSDR agreed on a set of jointly defined priorities in the fields of mobility and transport, sustainable energy, tourism and culture, water, nature and biodiversity protection, education and labor markets, competitiveness, strengthening institutional cooperation and security, and by setting actions as projects and policy agenda, together we can achieve more prosperity in the regions by respecting their diversity. As we already heard, the Danube region stretches from the Black Forest in Germany all the way to the Black Sea in Ukraine and is home to 150 million inhabitants. We have 14 countries, members of the strategy, 9 being EU members and 5 non-EU members. The Danube River is the EUSDR not only enables and supports cooperation, but can also deliver in geographical context its share in European integration of the Western Balkan countries and EU neighboring countries, which was also the priority of the outgoing Slovak presidency. And at this stage, let me also thank and congratulate the Slovak colleagues for their support. The implementation of the Danube strategy follows the multi-level governance principle, having the implementation vertically across governmental, national, regional and local institutions, and horizontally across governmental and non-governmental institutions. The common denominator here is the cooperation and interdependence of all involved actors. The government of the EUSDR is therefore spread on several levels of implementations. The national coordinators are being the strategic coordination function within their national and regional governments. The coordinators, or NCs, coordinate the participation of their country in the implementation of the strategy, including all 12 priority areas or the so-called thematic areas. They also promote the EUSDR and inform at the national and regional level all stakeholders and key developers ongoing initiatives, including alignment of policies and funding, and take care of political, administrative and thematic involvement on national and regional levels. The EUSDR presidency, which Ukraine is taking over now, together with the trio presidency, shares the strategy, and jointly with the past and the future presidency, takes care for a period of 1 year of setting common goals, political and thematic goals, in accordance with all 13 other member states. Then there is the next level, the priority area coordinators or the thematic coordinators. They are leading the so-called steering group. As we already heard, Ukraine co-coordinates the priorities 1B, rail, road and air links, and the PA9, investing in skills. Steering groups have members from all involved countries and are established for all priority areas. So PACs, together with the steering group, ensure the implementation of the EUSDR. Then the next level of the governance consists of the European Commission, here the Director General for the regional policy, which is the strategic partner on EU level. European Commission helps to implement the strategy by facilitating and supporting actions of the participating countries. The European Commission coordinates the strategy on the EU policy level. The Danube Strategy Point is the secretariat of the strategy. It is based in Vienna with the city of Vienna and in Bucharest with the Romanian Ministry of Public Works Development Administration. And both countries were the co-initiators of the strategy. We try to help to improve the implementation of the strategy, supporting the key stakeholders on the national and regional level and on the thematic and European level. The Danube Strategy Point is the first contact for the strategy, and it works closely with the presidencies implementing their programs and also with the European Commission. The Danube Strategy Point is mandated by all 14 EUSDR countries, providing support and implementation in 5 tasks. First, being the strategy secretariat itself, especially in connection with the governance support and the revised action plan as a central document of the strategy implementation. And here the political commitment of all EUSDR member states is essential for the success of the strategy. Secondly, the Danube strategy points also provide support for aligning of the implementation on the ground, aligning of funding opportunities, which we call the embedding. And Minister was already referring to this. Here, especially when it comes to securing enough financial resources for projects and aligning the funding with the strategy's priorities, be it on the European structural and investment funds, the accession assistance instrument, which is important for the countries of the Western Balkans, or the neighborhood development and international cooperation instrument, which is important for Ukraine and Republic of Moldova. This priority is crucial, one after the programming phase, which is in 2021, which will go in the next year during the Ukrainian presidency into its implementation phase. Thirdly, the capacity building for stakeholders, especially for non-EU countries. The Danube strategy points provide support to build enough capacities for core stakeholders for the implementation of national, regional, and local levels. One thing to mention, and we heard this already, is the stronger involvement of youth, which is also the topic which will be followed by Ukrainian presidency, and it started already with the Slovak colleagues with the previous presidency. Number 4, the communication of internal and external character, securing good information flows and providing the stakeholders and the public with the latest information on the strategy. And last but not least, evaluation and monitoring, providing the ground for further development of the strategy itself. In spring 2022, the evaluation of the EUSDR will be published under the Ukrainian presidency, and also the new monitoring of the strategy will be implemented within Ukrainian presidency. Well, with this, I would like to wish Ukraine the best of luck for the presidency and express once again DSP's full support for all your actions. Thanks again for the invitation, and back to you, Nadia, in Kiev.
Роберте, дякую за підтримку, по-перше, дякую.
Thank you, Robert, very much indeed for outlining for what Danube Strategic Point deals with and for the support that you provide to us as the presiding country. Now I would like to give the floor to the representative of the country, which has given to us the reins for chairing. This is Slovakia, Michal Blaško, the EUSDR National Coordinator in the Slovak Republic. Throughout the previous year, the Slovak Republic did a lot and involved Ukraine very much for one of the priorities. And one of the priorities for the Slovak Republic was providing help and assistance to non-EU countries. So we can believe that one of the priorities was fully implemented, maybe even over-implemented. So Michal, the floor is yours.
I hope that you can see me and hear me well. So I hope that everything works, even we cannot meet each other personally. Thank you very much. And first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to the presentation of the Ukrainian presidency of the Danube strategy. Despite our hopes that we will soon be able to meet face to face, it looks to us that we will still remain in online space for a certain time in coming future. So let me at the beginning to congratulate Ukrainian partners on having taken over the presidency of the strategy. We are really proud, and I mean Slovakia, we are really proud that Ukraine will be the first non-EU country, as was mentioned many times, has been mentioned many times today, of the Danube strategy. We consider this to be a proof of the viability of macro-regional strategies, which is from time to time questioned by skeptical voices. We are convinced that the Ukrainian presidency will contribute to strengthening the concept of macro-regional strategies in Europe. Sustainable development is a traditional concept which appeared here some decades ago and later somehow disappeared a bit. And I'm very glad that you have revived this concept because, as you know, sustainable development stands on three pillars: an economic, social, and environmental pillar. And we also know that subject standing on three legs is very stable. This concept will be more and more important in Europe. We are now trying to combat the climate change, which is a top priority of the agendas of European countries. We all know that combating climate change will have significant effects on the way how we live our lives. It will be therefore very important to incorporate social and economic aspects into the measures focused on climate change issues. There are countries in our region which may suffer seriously for the climate measures if they are not carefully designed so as to respect different economic power of particular countries. During the Slovak presidency of the Danube strategy, we were trying to address these issues not only in the framework of the annual forum, but also with specifically focused events. You may remember that we have repeatedly stressed the importance of cooperation at various levels in the course of our presidency. And I hope that this will remain a key common. We'll need not only strong cooperation among national coordinators and priority coordinators, but our cooperation has to go far beyond the boundaries of the Danube strategy. We have to involve all key stakeholders to our activities. Both we will have to accelerate the involvement of the young generation and youth organizations into the implementation of the strategy, because I think that we need a fresh breath, and I think that these together with Ukraine presidency will bring the fresh air to the Danube strategy. Some activities have started during the Slovak presidency, and we will have to continue in this area. I'm convinced that development of human capital and labor markets, which are on the list of Ukrainian priorities, offer a unique opportunity to move forward with the initiatives which has already started. Together with other national coordinators, we have set up a smaller working group that is now examining how to achieve this goal. To this end, we also organized a special workshop within the annual forum of the Danube strategy focused on strengthening the position of youth and youth organizations in the Danube strategy. Another very important initiative, and it has been mentioned today, is the incorporation of our strategy objectives into the funds of the cohesion policy. So now I'm talking about the embedding. We consider the embedding to be the key to the success of the Danube strategy. There are sufficient funds in the EU cohesion policy funds, especially in the so-called mainstream programs, which should also be used to support the objectives of macro-regional strategies. For this purpose, the Slovak presidency prepared a concise document from words to action, in which we proposed several very specific measures or steps to achieve embedding on a practical level. This would allow the real use of available funds to support the strategy implementation of its priorities and effective programming, as has already been mentioned by Mr. Igor Korkovi in his introductory speech. The embedding will also require a strong cooperation across the stakeholders. So the networks of managing authorities of EU funds established during our presidency should also contribute to such informal cooperation. The network of managing authorities of the European Social Fund, which has been in operation for several years, served as a model for us. The network of managing authorities of the European Regional Development Fund, the Cohesion Fund, and the IPA and NDK financial instruments should now also work in this way. We hope that these networks will facilitate the embedding to be implemented throughout our countries in a smoother way. So this is to maybe priorities and to what could Ukraine partners together with us, with the trio partners, work on during the coming years. And finally, let me again express my gratefulness for having the opportunity to be with you today, and allow me to wish you all and to your whole country a lot of success in carrying out the difficult task of chairing the Danube strategy. I'm convinced of your success, which also be the success of us all. We will stay by your side and ready to help and support your activities and duties in coming years. So this is where I would like to stop, and I would like to give the floor back to you, Nadia. Thank you.
Дякую, пане Міхале, дякую за підтримку.
Thank you, Mr. Michal. Thank you for your support. We had a lot of discussions about the priorities of the presidency, how we are going to select the priorities in a harmonized way. Well, the question is that it's very important for us to continue the priorities that have been initiated before us, and it's important to preserve this handover of priorities from one country to another. We know that it's always difficult because each country has its own priorities of presidency and domestic priorities, and it's important to find this golden middle between the priorities that Ukraine can offer and the policy Ukraine can support on its behalf in terms of the Danube region, and how it can synchronize all these priorities which were prior to that to ensure the sustainability of presidency. Could you tell me, do we have Mr. Poppins with us? No, okay. Otherwise, I suggest that we break for coffee now. We have some technical issues with the European Commission, the Directorate of Regional Policy, DG Regio, and we have 15 minutes for break. And during the break, other than drinking coffee, please remember to sign up on our webpage, on Facebook. We also have our page on YouTube, which is going to be filled up with new videos with regards to the presidency. And we also have our Twitter page, the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union Strategy for the Danube Region on Twitter. So see you all in 20 minutes. Thank you.
I'm just leaving. I was here at the podium discussion. view over the Zakarpattia. Okay.
Пане Олексію і інші в онлайні у нас.
All right, colleagues, let's continue. We have Mr. Norman Poppins, who is the Deputy Director General of DG Regio, European Commission. Sorry, he's off, so we'll go by the program. We have a panel devoted to the priorities of the presidency. Both online and in the conference room, we have respective ministries responsible for the priorities Ukraine has undertaken during its presidency. I am delighted to invite Mr. Mikhailo Khoriev, who is a Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine. Mr. Mikhailo, please, the floor is yours. Yeah, we're just switching on the presentation.
Доброго дня, колеги, друзі. Радий вас всіх вітати на нашому заході. І пройтись.
Hello, dear friends. I'm going to be brief on the priorities and the tasks that are the criteria of the strategy, and respectively the commitments and the steps that Ukraine is undertaking today. The Ministry of Environmental Protection is responsible for several activities within the strategy, such as the improvement of the water resources, in parallel the monitoring of environmental risks, and one of the strategic goals, including that of Ukraine and the EU, is the preservation of the biodiversity and the improvement of landscapes and the air quality and ground quality. In our joint plan, we've identified several directions which are associated with the strategy and the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement that Ukraine has undertaken to commit to. And the key strategic directions are key for Ukraine, and we view them as we have outlined them as a priority. Yeah, there's a transmission here. Yeah, okay. I saw myself and I was shocked. So that's what's important for us. That's what we call the Danube Basin. So it's about the monitoring of the superficial waters and the commitment we've undertaken to move to the European sector. We have 4 modern ISO certified 17025 certified laboratories, and in 2025 we should have river basin management plans to complement our segment to the river basin management plan. The Tisha, the Sirets, the Danube, these are the white stains on the map of Europe and of the Danube Basin. So we're filling them up, and we have a hope that in 2025 that is going to be covered, and we will be able to see that, and we will look good as well as other European colleagues. So also have activities for adapt the climate. We have the issue of expanding the water and wetlands and biodiversity, and the research of what's going on in the Black Sea region. We can boast here, thanks to the Belgian government, we got a present, which is a ship, a scientific vessel, called Belgica, now named after Boris Alexandrov, the late director of the Institute of the Sea. And now we have our fleet. We can do this in the Black Sea and in the river, including the Danube, because we realize that the Danube basin is not just land, but it's also part of the sea, according to the directive. Also, we've been exercising a series of projects, and we have a tight interaction with our neighboring countries, with the Danube Basin countries, Slovakia, Romania, Ukraine. Here we conduct monitoring. We're predicting catastrophic floods. A flooding risk management plan has been developed of the river, of the Danube River estuaries and tributaries. And we also have research on biodiversity, the so-called Habitat Directive. So there's a broad range of activities launched with the partners. So for the time period, these activities will also be implemented. They are in the active phase. I had to mention that because it's important. Within the big conference in Glasgow, the activities to decarbonize and transform our economy, the government has updated the national contribution, and respectively that was demonstrated in Glasgow as a Ukrainian contribution to this general global trend to preserve the climate, to prevent the warming and the reduction of greenhouse gas. And as part of the adaptation, we should have an operational plan until 2030, and the government has approved it. Even though this is an ambitious goal, to reduce by 65% since 1990, we realized that the economy is different. But the negotiations that we have had as a ministry with other stakeholders, with the industrial complex, the industrial part of the government, the Ministry of Strategic Industry, the Ministry of Economy, and others, in fact, 65% is sufficient. It's a lot to be done to attain this progress. It's not the automation we have today. But if we attain that, this is also going to be a major contribution to our joint future. Also, we are working on the strategy jointly with other ministries, and hopefully next year this framework law is going to be approved, and Ukraine is going to see clearly the goals and the strategy where it's moving. Thank you. That was brief. Thank you so much, Mr. Mihailo. It's so good that you mentioned Glasgow and the Green Deal. This is one of the priorities we are talking about as part of our priorities under the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union strategy for the Danube region. Thank you for reminding us of the project from Zakarpattia in the Danube transnational program funded through this financial instrument aimed at supporting the priorities of the strategy. We have Ms. Valeria online. Ms. Valeria, are you with us? Okay. So let's go. While Ms. Valeria is joining us, I suggest that we go to priorities 7 and 9, which is the Ministry of Education and Science. It's a unique story because the Ministry of Education and Science has been co-coordinating priority 9 with Austria. I think Mr. Oleksiy is going to introduce us to what has been achieved. as part of the co-coordination of Priority 9, and also Priority 7 is also important for us, that is responsible for smart specialization and cooperation with the universities and the academia. Thank you. Hello, dear colleagues, dear participants of this event. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody on the Ukraine's obtaining the presidency of the European Union strategy for the Danube region from our Slovakian colleagues. This is our victory on the one hand. It's about our efficiency of all the stakeholders. On the other hand, it is some responsibility to our colleagues at the European level, since Ukraine is the first non-EU member state to obtain the right to of presidency. And throughout the years until October 2022, it is going to coordinate that. The Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine is the first ministry to join the coordination of this priority, priority number 9 of the Danube strategy, in conjunction with our Austrian colleagues. And beginning 2021, in the Ministry of Education and Science, by signing a partnership agreement on Priority 9, investments in education and training of EUSDR as part of the Danube transnational program. An agreement was signed between the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine on the one hand and 2 federal ministries of the Austrian Republic, which is the Ministry for Labor and the Ministry of Education and Science of the Austrian Republic. Over this time, as part of the working program, 9 investments in education and training has been organized. We've set up a steering group, a meeting, and a conference of stakeholders of this priority direction on the investment in training and education, which took place this June. In 2020, the ministry held trainings on drafting project proposals as part of the Danube transnational program. And this year, in 2021, Ukraine joined the Center of Excellency on the investment in training and education jointly with the European Fund of Education. The results that we have today, it would be difficult to attain these results without our colleagues who have worked from the Ministry of Social Policy of Ukraine. Deputy Minister Olha Rivuk is here, the representatives of the Ministry of Economy, the Hans Seidel Foundation in Ukraine. And I'd like to say special thanks to Nadia Afanasyeva, who is director of the Ukrainian Institute of International Policy, and her team for the support in implementing our priority.
And I'm extremely happy that the priority area number 9, investments in education and retraining within the Danube strategy, today covers such important areas as education, development of human potential, social policy, development of labor markets, because after all, the development of human capital and labor markets have been selected as 2 thematical areas for the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union strategy for the Danube region. Ahead, a lot of work lies for Ukraine. I would like to highlight that as part of the educational component, the priority areas of work and action, varieties of activities will focus on such trends as raising vocational education and training and ensuring linkage with some of the analogous educational establishments within the Danube region, also inclusion of people with disabilities into labor markets, as well as some other trends. I would like to thank you all for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Alexei. It's truly the instruments which we are using as we are coordinating the program, and we keep reiterating that we have to learn a lot from the countries of the EU, but as part of the 9th priority area, we enjoy such support, and they keep telling us that we have a lot to learn from you, the Ukraine, and it's due to your team, which gets involved very actively, and the team of the Ministry of Social Policy, Ms. Olga Revuk, because your team is also very actively involved in the implementation of area number 9. You are the next one to speak, so the floor is yours. So in what way are we going to chair? What is the focusing point for the ministry in this respect? Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all of the participants of today's function. First of all, I would like to say that Ukraine gets involved in the implementation of the strategy, the European strategy for the Danube region back in 2011. And in those days, we didn't have a chance to participate in the strategy and its implementation. And along with that, when the action plan was being revised back in 2018, 2019, we gained this opportunity, and Ukraine began to get vocal about the priorities which were of importance for us in this particular region. And I would also like to draw your attention to the fact, a very pleasant one in this regard, that the priorities that we have suggested are the example of qualitative cooperation between the countries which are members of the EU and associated member countries, potential members of the EU. This is a wonderful example of shaping a holistic program. And together we are pursuing this towards this goal in a more confident way. Nowadays, the Ministry of Social Policy, Ministry of Education, and my ministry are empowered in the priority plan number 9, or priority area number 9. What is important here? The result or the deliverable of our cooperation at the national level will be the fact that we have prepared different activities for the roadmap and for the implementation of the Ukrainian presidency overall. In the past, for the priority area number 9, the main issues were employment and educational systems. However, starting with 2018, the Ministry of Social Policy in particular began to get actively involved in the extension, so to say, of offering solutions to social problems in this region. And we were developing social trends of work. And this related, first of all, to fighting poverty, inclusion, and finding employment for persons with disabilities. This priority area number 9 correlates with two other areas, priority areas for 2022. And under current circumstances, the issue of human capital is of drastic importance, because due to it, we can accelerate opportunities for every individual in every facet of human society to find fulfillment for themselves. And it's noteworthy that Ukraine is also shaping this policy, and in summer this year, the Ministry of Social Policy developed, and it was approved by the government, the Strategy of Human Development. It's a comprehensive document which stipulates and provides for the solutions to major life problems and issues that our society is faced with. The result of this strategy, or the deliverables of this strategy, should be the following indicators: longevity, extended lifespan, access to qualitative education, lifelong education, high level of life, standard of living, development of social area, and equitable distribution of economic resources. The plan for the Ukrainian presidency of the European Union strategy for the Danube region, we provide for the creation for holding a conference for the most important stakeholders for priority area number 9. And this event will be a unique opportunity to promote more deep cooperation between EU member states and associated countries. And another important and practical aspect is the point that this conference will be preceded by working team meetings between all stakeholders of all different countries, which are covered by the strategy in this priority area. And I hope this will enable us to obtain fantastic experience, which is one of the purposes and goals that we set for this conference. And then further implementation of these outputs for the Danube region and across the full border of Ukraine. And to wrap up, I would like once again to reiterate and emphasize that crisis times in which we live nowadays urge us to understand that our cooperation, not only the cooperation between the major ministries at the national levels and other involved actors, but also at intergovernmental level, is of critical importance. So for us to activate the experience of our neighboring countries to resolve various issues, it takes a lot of effort to find fruition within the Ukrainian presidency. So the solutions that we will come up during the forthcoming year, we will definitely use as instruments, and this will definitely boost our progress. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Ms. Olga, because we are faced with a most interesting year, when in the first place we will be able to obtain, but also provide to our colleagues and counterparts from other 13 countries covered by EUSDR. We have spoken a lot today about digitalization. Igor Korchovy, who is the national coordinator for digitalization in Ukraine, has said that Ukraine has a lot to share and a lot to be proud of in terms of digitization. And on October 26th in Bratislava, there was a ministerial meeting held for the countries covered by the EUSDR. And Ms. Valeria Ionan participated in that ministerial meeting. Valeria Ionan is Deputy Minister of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. So, Ms. Valeria, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us today. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be with you here today. And first of all, I would like to thank all of the speakers for their wonderful speeches. To keep it in a nutshell, you understand that we are a young ministry. We're only 2 years old, and we have a lot to transform and change in our country for the better. And we have 4 strategic goals towards which we are working. First of all, to make 100% services, public services, available online. Train 6 million Ukrainians to be internet literate, and of course to boost IT skills within our population. And for that we have created an ecosystem of the national projects, which we'll call DIA, or Action. And we have DIA application within the scope of that, and already more than 9 million Ukrainians subscribe to that. And there are lots of different documents and activities available to that. We have DIA, the portal that enables us to digitalize different services. And these days we can offer the speediest registration of businesses. This is something that can be done within 15 minutes. DIA City, DIA Digital Education, it's the program for raising digital education and skills, and a large-scale program for business and entrepreneurship. In this respect, we are also focusing on regional digital transformation, which is focusing on developing human capital. And to that end, we have created new jobs within the government, called CDTOs, Chief Digital Transformation Officers. These are deputies of the people responsible for the digital transformation, appointed within the regional local governments. These CDTOs will be responsible for the implementation of new digital solutions and changes in regions. And they deal in the field with registration services and other things that relate to basic digital infrastructure and oblast to regional transformation. So regional transformation that we are focusing our efforts on is the development of providing administrative services, because as we said, we would like to provide online 100% all of the services in a digitalized way. At the same time, we would like to create a network of digital services provision with the help of the internet. And we would like to provide high-speed or broadband internet connection everywhere in Ukraine in order to facilitate and promote entrepreneurship in Ukraine with the help of Dear Business application. And this part is being implemented with the help of two things. One-stop shop. For entrepreneurs, it's a wonderful thing because there are a lot of free services available for businesses and would-be businesses, ranging from free consultations to free business schools, providing also expert analysis and support, and all the way to the second component, which is a network of different centers of Dear Business, which these days are opening up across Ukraine. These days we have already 7 Dear Business offices, and some of them are in Odesa, which is the Danube region. The 2 centers are within the Danube region. One is in Kharkiv, another in Mykolaiv, in Uzhgorod, Poltava, Kharkiv, in Cherkasy. There is a consultation center and also a center for the development of youth entrepreneurship at the basis of Shevchenko National University in Kiev, and this month in Kremenchuk, Kryvyi Rih, Ternopil and Bucha, they will also see the opening of such offices. And by the end of this year, we are going to have 11 such centers. One more thing is digital skills of the citizens. And as we said, we have an ambitious goal of training 6 million Ukrainians to utilize their digital skills. So for that, we have a national digital platform where people can develop their digital skills online. There are more than 70 different educational programs for edutainment. So it starts with senior people as the target audience, and all the way to young professionals, young adults, students, or specialists within particular narrow areas of work like teachers or doctors, medical doctors, public servants, etc. On the platform, we have about 1 million Ukrainians taking their training courses, and about 500,000 of them have already taken tests for the level of their digital literacy. An offline component is provided for different contact points, and we have 6,000 such focus points or hubs, and for the majority of times they are in universities, libraries, even sometimes in the private sector. And to wrap it up, I would like to say that the priority of Ukraine in its presidency in the EUSDR in many ways interplays with the mandate of the Ministry of Digital Transformation, because it's raising the standard of people's life, development, their skills, in order to help them to be more competitive in labor markets. Thank you very much indeed for this opportunity to be with you here. And once again, I give the floor back to the moderator. Thank you, Ms. Valeria. Thank you very much indeed for this meaningful presentation. It gets us thinking about some other priority areas that we will be able to support together with your respective ministry during the Ukrainian presidency. Therefore, we hope to stay in touch with you and to continue to top up this Ukrainian presidency program together jointly with your ministry. Now, in connection with us, we may Mr. Norman Spokens, Deputy Director General, DG Regio, European Commission. I understand that this is not quite the topicality of our panel discussion, but it's extremely important for us, Mr. Poppins, to hear the support that DG Regio gives, because the support of macro-regional policy is part of your mandate. Therefore, please, you're welcome to say a few things.
Well, thanks a lot. And dear ministers, ladies and gentlemen, from the European Commission, we are happy to see that Ukraine has taken over the presidency of the Danube macro-regional strategy for the EU, because this is a concept that we have set up already years ago, and Danube strategy is one of the most important ones. It connects 9 European countries with 5 non-EU countries, and it has very important priorities, whom you know very well, and we heard already from the ministers also about the priorities of your presidency. I just wanted to say that we do believe that macro-regional strategies are an important tool in achieving common goals. As you heard from our Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in her State of the Union speech, the Green Deal is the overarching priority. So this green and digital transition, which EU has put at the heart of its development, is also corresponds very well to the objectives and priorities of the EU strategy for macro-regional strategy for the Danube region. And this is why we hope that also under the Ukrainian presidency, we will be able to continue contributing to these important objectives. The issues related to climate change, environment, biodiversity, they don't know the borders. So we need to cooperate together, not just within the European Union, but also with our neighboring countries. And we are really glad that the Ukrainian presidency also has put it as one of the priorities for their presidency. You already participate in many projects that were mentioned in this conference, and we rely on you that you will bring forward this need of working in the Danube basin to foster and to keep working together on fighting climate change, on and investing also from different programs in this particular field. It is true that European Commission wants to link the macro-regional strategies also to the bigger EU policy goals, but also to align our funding instruments to support concrete projects. And this is also what macro-regional strategy should do. It should simply foster the creation of joint projects between different countries and regions. I also particularly wanted to say that the green and digital transition, it's not just about helping our industries, companies, enterprises, even small and medium-sized ones. It is also thinking about people, our Europeans, and that is also part of your priorities. We should make sure that this Green Deal becomes a win-win situation for everyone. And this is why we need to work together to develop common projects in cooperation in this field, development of our talent, our human capital, and the European Commission places particular importance on these aspects as well. And finally, I just wanted to say that next year will be the year of youth in the European Union, and Danube strategy has very many important projects already completed with involvement of our young generations, and I hope that this also can continue under the Ukrainian presidency. Just to finish, to say that the European Commission will be there in supporting you and all the countries participating in the strategy, as it has done for years since the beginning of these strategies, and we just wish you good luck and success. Thanks a lot.
Дякую, пане Попенс.
Thank you, Mr. Poppins, for your wonderful words of support. They're really important for us, and we hope that together with your colleagues, this year we will be in close collaboration, just as it was previously. But no, we will be enjoying a different status, which is enormously important for us. Next, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Irina Kucheruk, Director of the Department of International Cooperation and Investment Policy, Ministry of Infrastructure. Ms. Irina, please unmute your microphone and turn on your presentation. Yes, it's true. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to share my screen if I can, in order to launch my presentation. Yes, please, you can do that. You have the access. to the presentation. And while you're launching your presentation, be reminded that the Ministry of Infrastructure is a member of a steering committee on transportation. This is priority 1A and priority 1B on railway and air communication and road connections.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for organizing such an important event as the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union Strategy for the Danube region. It's one of the important steps for the upcoming European integration. We are now opening up the prospects of fruitful cooperation in the region. And from your permission, I would like to briefly present the key priorities and events of the Ministry of Infrastructure for the upcoming period. The Ministry of Infrastructure within the strategy has been cooperating with two priorities. 1A, the domestic navigation, and 1B, automobile, railroad, and air communication. Under 1A, the Ministry of Infrastructure has for years been cooperating with the agencies responsible for the priority 11, which is safety, the approval of the official control forms for the Danube region countries, the aim of which is to ensure a unified approach of navigation for the vessels to enter and exit the Danube River basin and to facilitate navigation in the region. In 2012, these control forms were approved officially by making amendments to the procedure of navigation, of entrance and exit from the ports. 3 Ukrainian Danube river ports are operating today. The key priority is to obtain support by other executive bodies to ensure the control procedures and the debit forms, to plan with other agencies to amend the regulatory framework, and to provide the legal support to the control activities to protect and ensure the transnational exchange. With regards to priority 1B, which envisages car, railroad, road, rail, and air services, let me emphasize our achievements in terms of the car transport. In the previous years, we managed to improve the quality of automobile roads, including the repairs of kilometers of roads up to the port of Reni, the improvement of communication with the Danube River countries, such as Romania. Next year, we also plan to continue that by building new directions. As part of our fruitful cooperation with Romania, we are working on a new infrastructure project, the construction of a bridge on the Ukraine-Romania border between Bila Tserkva and Siget Marmațiu. One has to point out that this is going to relieve the load on the transportation hubs, and is going to connect the Transcarpathian region with Poland, Slovakia, Romania. Another important priority is the development of the automobile roads network of 4 regions: Odesa, Chernivtsi, Ivano-Frankivsk, and Zakarpattia, with a total length of about 600 kilometers. In terms of developing railroad transport, certain regional capitals would like to relaunch the rail 1015 rail development, establishing railroad communication of the European track, communication between Chop and Uzhgorod. In terms of air service, to implement this strategy, we've partially implemented the construction of the new airfield complex of the international airport Odesa and the construction of the new runway. For the upcoming period, we have planned to establish the construction of these complexes and also to build the rescue station and the runways. We also are designing and constructing a new airport in Zakarpattia region. Landscaping of the future airport has been made. It will have an optimum location and will ensure the air service to Zakarpattia. Also, the international airports of Chernivtsi and Ivano-Frankivsk are also being improved. Additionally, I'd like to point out to our key plans for 2022 to implement the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union Strategy for the Danube Region program. 2 panel discussions on priority 1A and 1B, and 1 roundtable to be held. The first panel discussion, which can be proposed by us, and I would like to invite you all to join it, is a panel discussion where we will share some practical experiences between the sea and coastal administrations of the EU countries on TAVET forms. So we are prepared to share our experience and to join and to share some new achievements and experiences and share with some plans. We also plan another panel discussion on the development of the river transport, on the domestic transportation for the 4th quarter of 2022. In this panel discussion, the priority is going to be redirecting of cargo traffic from automobiles to the river transport as one of the priorities of the European integration, the so-called Green Deal. And this way we plan to reduce emissions in the atmosphere. In terms of the 1B priority, we also propose that all the countries are join in the roundtable to develop the intermodal transportation and the comprehensive procedures to move the loads to container trains. Here, there are prospects of cooperation, and there are certain action plans and to finalize the pilot projects and the development of communication and the development of our cooperation. Thank you so much, Ms. Irina. Thank you, Ms. Irina, for the part of the action plan which can be added to the general presidency plan. We can discuss all of these priorities. We can also think about finding some financial support to support the organization of either online or offline events. This also must be discussed. A lot depends on that, how well we can establish such a communication. Thank you so much for this initiative. We'll be happy to join any proposals. And we have I hope that under our panel discussions, everything will be consolidated and that such an initiative will be supported by all the sides. Thank you. Ms. Irina, And our last speaker, last but not least, is the external communication, the communication with overseas communications, Ukrainian delegations to understand how to build a dialogue and how to have a discussion, how to promote the presidency priorities. I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Serhiy Sayekhin, who is the deputy head of Department EU NATO department. You've been working with the Danube region for a long time, Mr. Serhiy, and I guess you have a lot to say to support the ministerial priorities, and you can provide your advice. Thank you. Thank you, Nadia. This is an important event for me personally and for the team of the ministry that has worked for me in the recent years. You can imagine a tree that you're planting, and then in the 10 years it brings fruit. In fact, since we started this campaign of joining the EU strategy of the Danube region since 2011, and we have had problems. We've had obstacles and opposition. There was misunderstanding in why, whether Ukraine has any access to the Danube or the Black Sea sometimes. But we are happy to have been heard, and the Danube has paid attention to us. And there's a crossroads as the most optimal and safe and environmentally free way. It has taken up the lead among the regional strategies for Ukraine. We've had a lot of debate at the forum, and last week in Zakarpattia, we did hear some ideas and initiatives on how to activate this work within the Danube strategy format. Maybe such a regional integration should be expanded to integrate regionally, because Ukraine and EU are considering cooperation with a future membership, but now because of some political obstacles that doesn't seem realistic for the entire country. So why don't we integrate regionally under the existing formats of cooperation, under the existing initiatives? I have only three statements here. First of all, I'd like to welcome the team, Nadia, Mr. Rostislav. You know how that was formed since 2015. All the fora that has taken place, and we've left some trace of Ukraine and what it can provide, what it can offer. I'm grateful to the colleagues from the NGOs, the thought leaders who helped us shape our position and to fill up the forms and formats cooperation with ideas being proposed by the strategy. What's vital here is communication. It's a logical question. One has to communicate both inside. We have to communicate with other countries, with the nations that have some interests in Ukraine and in our engagement here. 8 years back, I didn't expect that Ukraine would have a chance of presidency in the strategy. But Ukraine, among the non-EU members, like Moldova, have become full-fledged members of this process. We do not have certain advantages that the EU countries have. However, we remove the obstacles so that within this platform we wouldn't have any delineation as a country, a presiding country among the EU members or non-EU members. I think it's a success story of both ministries, a success story of the government support of the members of parliament who have pushed to make certain decisions. And finally, I'd like to say that such a format of cooperation will be expanded. And as we grant this opportunity to all the regions to be involved in the European regional integration that is fixed in the strategy of external policy of Ukraine, foreign policy from the Baltics to the Black Sea, where the shortest way where we can form our interests, transport, infrastructural, ecological, which is the subject matter of interest of Ukraine and of the citizens. So it is the priority of regional integration that is the element that can move an integral, comprehensive sectoral dialogue and provide our ideas. It's important to have a consistency in implementing the priorities, to have a clear-cut plan in planning all the processes that we are embedding here, and finally to have the prospects, not for the sake of chairmanship, but for the sake of the prospects and the consistency in implementing the presidency. Thank you. That's my message. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Serhiy. Thank you for this message. We've been discussing many times with the European partners, and I'm really concerned about this formulation in a lot of European documents when they say member states and non-member states and third countries. So the member states and the third countries. So we are believed to be the third countries. In fact, we have a unique opportunity to demonstrate that we are not the third country, that we are partners and we are neighbors, and we can jointly solve all the problems in the region. I would like to thank Mr. Mihailo, Ms. Olga, Ms. Irina, Ms. Oleksiy, Mr. Serhiy, Mr. Normans, Ms. Valeria for this interesting discussion, because we still have a lot to do. It's the ministerial coordination and the presidency. The presidency is one of the key things that we are focused on. The Danube strategy, having 12 priorities, is an important interministerial cooperation. Under the presidency, we still have to organize the events. I'm happy that your ministries have an idea where they should move and where to find these international events that we can support under the presidency. I'm grateful to you for this discussion, and we are smoothly moving to our next panel discussion. I would like to invite the representatives of our regions: Ivano-Frankivsk region, Zakarpattia region, Chernivtsi region, and Odesa region. I still have something to say. We have our partners, GIZ, the Innovation Laboratory of Association, EU-Ukraine Association, has been calculating the carbon dioxide trace under the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union strategy for the Danube Region event, which is a combination of all greenhouse gases which were formed as a result of the hosting of this event. Because of the recent trends and the big focus to the climate change, it's important to know our own carbon trace and how we create it. So all the transport means which were used by our guests from the regions, the organization of this event, the consumption of energy, this building where the event is being hosted will be assessed according to this methodology. Based on the itineraries of our participants. Not only it is important to assess the carbon footprint, but to also reduce it and compensate it. So after the calculation, the activities to compensate that carbon footprint will be proposed, which then will be put into practice. So we will have to use this methodology and calculate all the processes, all the energy emissions from all the participants of this event, and then to tell where and how we can compensate them, whether this is going to be planting of trees or other activities. You can learn about it from our Facebook page of the Ukrainian Presidency, and on our YouTube page, and on the web page of the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union Strategy for the Danube Region. So this calculation was made by GIZ, which is the German Society for International Cooperation. And now we get down to our panel discussion with our guests from the regions. Ukraine has its uniqueness within the Danube strategy because we have a challenge of communication. At the national level, there is a national coordinator at the ministerial level, but 4 regions are involved in the Danube strategy, which are 800 kilometers away from Kiev. It's important for us to support, to maintain communication with the regions and to hold activities in the regions under our presidency. The first floor goes to Mr. Anatoly. So Ms. Svetlana Onishchuk, head of Ivano-Frankivsk Regional State Administration. Please. Ms. Svetlana, thank you for traveling here.
Very much thank you for today's invitation. Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. In fact, Ivano-Frankivsk region is sincerely happy and rejoicing over this opportunity that Ukraine has the presidency in the European Union strategy for the Danube region throughout the year 2022, and the implementation of the joint projects will definitely boost our region because Zakarpattia is a fantastic touristy area with unique culture, and we will have every chance and opportunity to demonstrate, to show the scenic beauty of Transcarpathia as well as the investment opportunities that our region has to offer. This program that Ukraine will have to implement in September 2022, it provides for Ivano-Frankivsk region holding an international conference dedicated to educational issues, retraining matters, as well as involving people with disabilities in labor markets. Today, this is a highly acute issue, and we have heard as well as discussed about this point today, because Ukraine is building a space without barriers, and it's not only a topical issue for Ukraine. Therefore, I'm deeply convinced that eliminating barriers is a thing that must be provided not only for people with disabilities or adapting to universal design, designing buildings universally. Such people with disabilities have to become full members of society, enjoying equitable treatment. I would also like to say that Transcarpathia, Ivano-Frankivsk region, we have had some very fine examples of implementing projects as part of the EU strategy for the Danube region. And we are implementing within our region 2 projects. It's the management of local forests as the local inheritance in the region of the Danube River, and the possibilities for digital transformation for senior people with the help of the innovative system of education. Hopefully, during the Ukrainian presidency in the EUSDR, we will manage to deepen further the cooperation with the partners and regions that we have and enjoy. As well as that, we will be able to align new partnerships with the countries in the Danube region. We're open to this dialogue, and on our part, we will do everything possible to successfully implement this Ukrainian presidency program and to achieve the common goals. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Svetlana. very much indeed, because these programs are much talked about by our European partners, because in the first place, these projects are large-scale, and Ivano-Frankivsk University of Oil and Gas is involved in one of these projects on training the skills, and Ivano-Frankivsk Regional Council in the area of forests and woodland, because you are a unique landscape area, something which is unique for the European Union. So this is a very interesting point, and a lot of conversations are evolving around it, and thank you for raising this point with us. Now it gives me much pleasure to give the floor to Serhiy Ossadchuk, head of Chernivtsi Regional State Administration. Thank you, Mr. Serhiy, for coming and being with us today. Dear friends, like-minded individuals, I'm sincerely happy to engage in this living dialogue with you today. And I'm sure that all of these priorities that we have outlined today of this very important European Union strategy, it will be translated into accessible language, accessible to the regions and specific residents in the regions, because whatever strategy has a citizen as its final recipient, and these individual citizens must not expect or anticipate to be embraced in the European Union, because these days it's possible to practice to be a European on your everyday life level and throughout the stretch of this huge, civilizationally important river, the Danube River. The people that live along the stretch of this Danube region, basically, it doesn't matter where you live, in Hungary, Austria, Ukraine, Germany, every individual, because of their conscious or unconscious actions, if you want to help our ecology, environment, and to manage resources properly, it's something that resonates, these issues resonate with every resident living in this Danube region. As I was listening to this interesting discussion today, I had an interesting metaphor coming across my mind, because the European Union can be compared to an interesting condominium. Yeah, we understand what it is about, a beautiful building where there are lots of different flats and people that live in this house. This house is very well managed, but this house stands in a street, high-rise apartment building, and there are lots of other buildings which are not part of this condominium, but still the residents within this condominium would really like to make sure that non-members of this condominium would adhere to the same culture of behavior, would maintain their territories clean and tidy, and make sure that their houses are also involved in energy-saving programs, and that they behave in a very polite and considerate way to their children, adults, as well as other people around them. Therefore, it was grating on my ear very much. It's something that I disliked enormously, and every single time I wanted to correct the statement that Ukraine, for the first time ever, a non-member of the EU Union, presiding. When we say that, let's not fail to remember the first the first European country, a non-EU member. Because Europe is not only about the European Union. Europe is much wider than the European Union. The European Union is good. It's like that condominium. However, when we say that Ukraine is presiding, we still have to put emphasis and say to our counterparts in the European Union that we don't come from African continent, but we are from the European continent. So we are a European country, non-EU member, presiding in the EUSDR. I think it's our sacred duty to ensure, in part of communication during our year of presidency, that in all border areas and all checkpoints throughout 21 and 22, there will be beautiful banners that we can see behind us. We need to make sure that people get informed including all of the guests coming to Kiev, to Ukraine, Chernivtsi, all of the airports, international airports in the west of Ukraine and the south of Ukraine. As they come to visit Ukraine, they need to read and become conscious that Ukraine is the president, that we can chair, we can be a chairman. So it's worthwhile launching such an information-raising awareness campaign throughout the whole stretch of the Danube, maybe some kind of a boat with a banner saying that Ukraine presides this year. This is an emotional point. Perhaps it is a little bit funny, but still it strikes us, it hits the nerve, and it's very important to win the hearts and emotions of our European neighbors. But now let's say a couple of things about Chernivtsi region. We are really truly integrated in the Central European space, the Danube world, if you like, the Central European culture. And we need to make the most of this potential. It's necessary to demonstrate the experience, the genesis of Bukovina space that should be inspirational today in the 21st century, inspirational for the communities to assume responsibility. I very much enjoyed the thesis that Mr. Serhiy Sayenko has just made. He was very delicate and tactful in shaping them when he said the priority is regional work, priority is cooperation between communities. The only thing as a caveat that I would like to mention, to make sure that we do not repeat the same mistake. Some 20 years ago, Chernivtsi region, together with its neighbors, set up a micro-regional area, a project called the Upper Prut. And central governments were afraid that the regions were going ahead. They were, unfortunately, put on stall, and I think that these fears should be eliminated, and this time communities must go up front. And we have a wonderful chance to invite you all in May to Chernivtsi, because the next session of our dialogue will take place in Chernivtsi for the diagnosis of harmful emissions, to be more efficient, and perhaps you will go there by bicycles or by river transport. And I would like to approach the Ministry of Infrastructure. I was very carefully listening to their priorities set. I would like to refocus perhaps the lens of their attention, not only along the direction of east-west, but I would like them to remember the European project, the 3C project, just what Serhiy Sayenko said concerning the European corridor from the Balkans to the Baltics. And that's something that goes across Bukovina, across the Chernivtsi, from Romanian to Polish border. A new European highway should arise. And in this respect, we can boast some successes in close collaboration with the State Customs Service of Ukraine. And with the fantastic support of the Office of the President, we have finally been able to make some headway, and we begin to reconstruct some four additional checkpoints on the border with Romania, because we have a common border with the EU member states and associated countries of the EU of some 400 kilometers. Therefore, we are prepared to make our own regional contribution, share our successes in courage, believe in ourselves, but at the same time remember about the beautiful wrapping, beautiful presentation. And of course, once again, we need to greet all of the visitors to Ukraine with these beautiful banners. Thank you, Mr. Serhiy. You have been so emotional, especially right from the start of your welcoming words. It's important not only to share these statements with the guests coming to Ukraine, but it's also important to share this information with the residents of Ukraine. And we have already had this conversation with the national coordination, at least in the ministries concerned, people should have these banners because there are hundreds and hundreds of employees working within the ministries, respective ministries, so they need to know what's happening in some of the processes and perhaps synchronize some of these processes. Well, we can send it to Chernivtsi region and we will brand these informational newsletters and logos. Well, we as the Institute of International Policies will remain in touch with you, and we will absolutely do everything in order to make sure that branding goes perfect. And I would like to give the floor to Mr. Oleg Muratov, Deputy Head of Odesa Regional State Administration. So, Mr. Muratov, the floor is yours. Good evening, everyone. I have a small presentation. I hope we will be able to put it on while it is being prepared. Once again, I would like to extend my gratitude to the organizers, to the Ministry of Territorial Development and other executive bodies. I would like to thank our counterparts from the European Union, because it's a highly important story what's happening today to Ukraine, because the Ukrainian presidency is a chance which we must but use. Concerning the Odesa region, let me say the following. A whole range of activities has been planned for the Odesa region. It's about 5 different functions and events which will run across the full board of our Odesa region, starting with Irini, Ismail and Odesa near the Black Sea. And of course, this is not the final list, because as of now, in order to ensure holding all of these events, the nearest session of our regional council, the agenda will be finalized, and I would like to thank the developers of this project. And we will financially back up this program, because we understand that life without financial backing is worth nothing. And Odesa region is 173 kilometers of borderline with Romania along the Danube River. It's nearly 600,000 inhabitants in the near Danube region and nearly 10,000 square kilometers of the territory. My colleagues have shared a lot about our major areas of work, and we have a lot of points of intersection, because a lot can be done at the regional level. And this holds true in many ways. And for us, something that we fixed in the strategy of Odesa region, indubitably, it's something that Ministry of Infrastructure development of road, railway, and air services, something that we have planned for ourselves. For the next year, we are going to restart the international airport in Ismail. We have nearly completed all of the design work for the terminal and the runway. All of these works have been financed from the regional budget. We see this project as one of those 2 thematical projects. First of all, in the development of human capital, which we have to implement as part of implementing the strategy. Another priority is launching a passenger express from Odesa to Ismail. And by the way, it's going to be launched for the first time as a pilot on Friday. So those of you who are on Friday this week, you're welcome to enjoying. This will enable us in the first place to put together Bessarabia region with Odesa, and will enable people to travel in a very speedy way, efficiently, because this rolling stock has been created in our Kryukiv rolling stock plant. We are implementing this project very quickly. And as part of the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union strategy for the Danube region, this will be invaluable. Another project set is to ensure energy security of our region, which is in correlation with the second priority. A few projects, environmental projects, we also have on our agenda, and our colleagues from the Ministry of Infrastructural Development said that a lot is being done in order to improve the network of highways and motorways, and we keep also designing and planning for that, because in our understanding, the building of that bridge should be done not only in the north of our region, but also in the south of the region. Another bridge has to be done, and a lot of road works have to ensure that people will be able to use that bridge. But unfortunately, we still need to take care and make sure that the automobile highway needs to be expanded from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. In part of decarbonization, we also have a lot of measures and actions planned, and I will talk about that at a later point. And throughout the last month, the President of Ukraine, the Prime Minister of Ukraine, and Ms. Olga Stefanishyna, Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine, came repeatedly to our region. So once again, it speaks in favor of the importance of the Ukrainian presidency and the EUSDR for Ukraine. Another important thesis to make is that we have to restore Ukrainian shipbuilding, because the Ukrainian Danube shipping is the only national operator. 100% of stakes and shares are owned by the Ministry of Infrastructural Development of Ukraine, and we have to develop the capacities of this ministry. Some interesting things are also planned for the next year. We are going to start concessions for the Izmail port. This year, to privatize, we have the port of Donetsk and the port of Belgorod-Dnistrovsk, which probably will be privatized next year, and some other ports of the so-called large Odesa. That's something which is actively developing, and it's of high importance for us, because in the context of intermodal and multimodal transshipments and freight, as well as traffic, we need to make sure that cargo traffic is speedy and efficient.
Another strategic direction is the irrigation in the Odesa region. In the Danube region, 12 projects have been developed. On the 3 of them, tenders have been conducted, and there is an agreement to fund these 12 projects next year, which will enable us next year to double the area of the irrigated lands in the Danube region. I'm really looking at this from a more hands-on perspective, and as my colleagues said, the participation in the Trans-Border Cooperation. Odesa region is a member of 6 international European organizations, such as the Euro region, the Lower Danube, the Association of the Danube countries, the Assembly of the European regions. We are updating our strategy for the next 5 to 6 years. Some of the projects have been implemented. The best success story is those of Izmail and Izmail district. In terms of priorities, under the priority on decarbonization, we see the development of renewables. Wind energy and to a lesser extent solar energy are developing. This year we signed a memorandum on the construction of a steam gas station with Turkish holding. Also on decarbonization, we mentioned the Global Climate Summit in Glasgow and the initiative of our president to plant 1 billion trees in 3 years, and ensuring the forest grow in 10 years. That's according to the Glasgow Summit resolution. So as part of the Green Deal, I already mentioned the Danube navigation. We plan to attract loan facilities of the European agencies to upgrade the fleet of the Ukrainian Danube navigation, because this is a bridge between Ukraine and other European countries. Finally, regarding the project of the development of the human potential, not many of you must have heard about it. It's a project which is managed personally by the President of Ukraine the construction of a new resort city in Odesa region. This project is now being presented at the Expo 2020 in Dubai. It's a resort city, which I manage personally, and is also called the Danube. It is expected to invest about $2.5 billion worth of foreign investment. In the long run, up to 10 years, it's going to give us an additional 6 million tourists per annum. We'll have 5-star hotels there, and we'll also have a gaming area or a gambling area. The legislation on gambling will be amended, and there is an agreement with the leadership of the country. So there's a pilot project, and the name of it is the Danube, and we'll be implementing it jointly. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Oleg. You are telling us about the new resort city. I was thinking about the Danube strategy. There's a rule that we actually are supposed to take the presidency depending on the alphabet, so which is going to take place in 14 years. I hope that we will have something to demonstrate in 14 years. Thank you so much, dear colleagues, for your words. Thank you so much for such a positive approach. It's very important for us to see the readiness of the regions. We're happy to see such a high representation from the regions, and we also see that you have your plans, your understanding of how to do this. We need to synchronize all that and to move according to the new presidency program. I would also like to give the floor. We still have online Mr. Johan Magnusson, who's a team leader from the EU macro-regional strategies, DG Regio, European Commission. Mr. Johan is the person who personally takes part in all the events on the Baltic and Danube strategies. He has a team that supports all the priorities of the Danube strategy, participates in the steering groups on all the priorities. Mr. Johan, please, a few words.
Можна звук?
Sorry. Unfortunately, there are problems with the sound.
We cannot hear you now. Just a second.
Just in case, Johan, have you switched on your microphone?
Johan, can you switch to the microphone, please? Maybe your earphones are not really work. Can you try to the microphone from your computer or phone? Your microphone is not working. Is it possible to disconnect your earphones and to speak in your microphone in your computer? No, unfortunately, I cannot hear you. Still not. We cannot hear you anyhow, and your microphone is not working. Maybe you have some connection problems within your... No. We are not receiving the sound from you, in any case. Johanna, I have a proposal now. Then we can just make a kind of video with you and to transform this on our Facebook page, on Twitter and the web page, the message from you to our regions, to our ministries, if this is possible. Like next time, not now, a little bit later. Okay. Друзі, я перепрошую, на жаль.
Friends, unfortunately, we can't establish a connection with a very important speaker. I'm very sorry that Mr. Johan wasn't able to establish a connection. For technical reasons, he always has something to say to the regions of Ukraine, to the ministries on synchronizing of all our priorities. So I do hope that we are going to get some video from him that where he will be able to hand over all the messages he was trying to deliver today. For now, I'd like to conclude this event. Thank you so much. We have 4 regions with Zakarpattia with us, but I hope that the process has been launched. According to Ms. Olga Stefanishina, additional regions are going to join the Danube strategy. This process is ongoing. It's not always quick, but the fact that it has been launched is very important. So I do hope that later on we will have more regions to join. I'd like to thank all the participants, the representatives of all the ministries, all the steering groups, to the team of the Ministry of the Development of Communities and Territories for their communication support, organizational support, the team of the Ukrainian Institute of International Policy, Ukrastream team, interpreters who have been working continuously for 4 hours. And let me remind you that our transmission can be watched on the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union Strategy for the Danube Region page, as well as the Hans Seidel page, who has supported this project and has supported a lot of projects since 2016 on the Danube strategy. On the web page that is going to be launched very soon, the Ukrainian Presidency of the European Union Strategy for the Danube region, on our Twitter page. A lot of events are taking place, and on the YouTube channel. There will be 2 transmissions, English and Ukrainian. So thank you all. I also invite you for a photo. All of those of you who are offline, you can also get photographed with the steering wheel that we got from Slovakia as they handed over the presidency to us. So be very serious about this steering wheel. I'd like to also remind you all who are offline, we'll have a networking, a small coffee break there, so we can still talk. For now, I'd like to say goodbye. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope that we will see you again. See you during the Ukrainian presidency and the European Union strategy for the Danube region. Thank you.